What's up guys, in this video I'll guide you on the steps I took to come up with this composition. You ready? Let's do it. For those who'd like the assets I'll be using in the composition, you can just send me a DM and I'll provide them for you. But remember guys, they're for practice use only, okay? Alright, so I have the sky as the background layer. I'll add the building, Nation Center building. It's already cropped out guys, by the way, just to save on time. So I use the layer mask to crop it out. We'll go ahead, click on the sky layer, add curves as an adjustment, clip it to the sky, then drop the midtone slightly. That will do. Ensure the layer mask is selected and the foreground color is black. Then brush over the lower parts of the sky. I'm going to add another curves adjustment, then increase the midtones slightly. Then Control I to invert the layer mask and ensure the brush is set to white, then brush over the lower parts. When it comes to layer masks, all you have to remember is black conceals, white reveals. So when the layer mask is black, use a white brush to reveal. When it's white, use a black brush to conceal. I'll just go ahead and add another empty layer. With the brush tool selected, the foreground color is black, so I'll just brush over the sky to give it a more cinematic look. As you can see, at the top of the sky it's dark. As you go lower, it gets brighter. You can also play around with the flow to adjust the intensity of the brush tool. Then I'll just change the blending mode to multiply. Then reduce the opacity. At this point the sky already looks good, it's giving sunset vibes. So let's add one more saturation layer. I'll clip it to the sky, then increase I'll pick the yellows. Then increase the saturation slightly. That looks good. So for now this will work. We can go ahead to the next step. We are going to match the building to the sky colors. So I'll hide the building layer first. Click on the sky group, Control Shift Alt E to take a snapshot. Drag the new layer on top of the building layer and clip it. We'll go ahead and add some blur to it. Radius 200 to 400 works perfectly. Then I'll go ahead and change the blending mode to color, but it's too much, so reduce the opacity. Alright, so I'll add one curves adjustment layer and create an S curve. Drag the shadows down then pull the highlights up slightly. So what this does, it makes the bright areas brighter and the dark areas darker. I'll add one more curves adjustment layer for the midtones. That looks good. I'll add one more curves adjustment layer and pull the midtones up. Control I on the layer mask to invert it. Then make sure the brush, the foreground color is white. Then decrease the flow. Also make sure the brush is the soft brush. So we are brushing over the parts where the sun falls directly on the building to give it a more natural look. Okay, remember if you want to undo, you just press X on the keyboard to put black as the foreground color, then brush over the area so you want to undo. And at this point the building already looks good. It has the cinematic feel, so we can go ahead to the next. I'll add one more hue saturation layer, then increase the saturation. Yeah, that will do. Next step, we are going to manipulate the sun, so I'll just create a new layer. Press B to select the brush tool and ensure it's on soft. Choose a color along the shades of yellow to orange and ensure the flow is at 100%. Click on the lower left area of the artboard and click once. Change the blending mode from normal to soft light. Create a new layer and change its color to white, or a color closer to white. Then reduce the brush size and click at the left corner of the artboard. Then change the blending mode from normal to screen. Alright, so the next step is going to be adding the tree. So as you can see, it's already cropped out, so I'll just place it at the bottom left of the artboard. Then repeat the same steps we did on the building. I'll click on the adjustment layer and add the curves. Then I'll clip it to the tree then drop the midtones. This is just to increase the contrast on the tree. Then I'll go ahead and add a brightness contrast adjustment layer. Then pull the brightness all the way. Ensure the layer mask is selected, then Ctrl I to invert. Then press B to select the brush tool and ensure the flow is at 100%. The white is the foreground color, then increase the brush size. Then brush over the edge of the tree to reveal the brightness. Okay, so I'll press Alt on the sky copy layer we just created on the building, then drag and drop it on top of the tree layers, then clip it to the tree. So this gives the tree the same color grading as that of the sky. Then play around with the opacity. Okay, so I'll add a new hue and saturation adjustment layer, then increase the saturation. I'll add a new layer, a new empty layer, then select the bright yellow orange color we used previously on the building, then click just above the tree. Ensure it's clipped on the tree. It's clipped, then change the blending mode from normal to screen. You can create a layer mask on the new layer, then press B on to select the brush tool, then brush over the areas you want to erase. Okay. So in these next steps is where the magic starts. So I'll start by adding the new guy sitting on the building. He's already cropped out. Okay, so first I'll click Alt on the sky layer, then drag it on top of the guy, then clip it. Play around with the opacity until you settle on what you think will work. So I'll create a new black and white adjustment layer and play around with the reds and change the blending mode from normal. You can either choose color band or linear band. So what this does, we are trying to change the melanin of the white guy to give it a more African look. So color band or linear band will do. In this case, I think linear band will work better. So play around with the reds and the yellows. click on the layer mask and Control I to invert. Then B for brush tool, increase the opacity to 100, flow to 100. Ensure the white is the foreground color, then brush over the skin. For now, don't worry about the intensity of the black and white effects, just brush over, we'll change it later. So now you can reduce the flow, then press X on the keyboard to switch to black as the foreground color, then brush over the places where you think the black and white. Brush over the areas where the black and white effect is too much. So black conceals, it's more or less like an eraser. For the reds, around 30 to 50 works, so I'll go with around 40. Yellows, around 60 works perfectly. Alright, so I'll create a new curves adjustment layer, then make an S curve. Click on the shadows, drop it slightly, then the highlights, I'll create a brightness. I'll create a curves adjustment layer, then pull the midtones all the way up, then on the layer mask, Control I to invert. So this technique is called dodge and burn. It just increases the contrast and gives the image some sharpness to it. So I'll reduce the flow to around 2. Then white is the foreground color, then brush over the areas where you want to increase the brightness. When using technique, just make sure you don't overdo it, otherwise the overall images will just look unnatural. So ensure the flow is at around 2. That's the before and after. It's all in the details, guys. So I'll create a new curves adjustment layer, but this time I'll drop the midtones all the way down. So what we did in the previous step, we'll just redo it. So Control I to invert the layer mask. Flow is at around 2%, then brush over the dark areas this time. So I'll also brush around the area where he sits on the building to add some shadow effect. As you can see, guys, this dodge and burn effect increases the sharpness. This is the before, this is the after. So the details are more visible now. Just don't overdo it. Okay, so I think at this point the composition looks good. So I'll just go ahead and create a hue saturation layer. So I'll increase the saturation, then play around with the hue. I'll add another color balance adjustment layer, then I'll increase the yellows, then the reds. I'll create a new empty layer, then pick the yellow color for the sunset glow on the guy. So since the sunset is on the left, the effect will be more on the left side of the guy, so we'll just brush over the edges and ensure the blending mode is soft light. Also, you don't want the effect on other layers, so ensure it's clipped on the guy. So I'll reduce the flow and add a little glow on the thighs exposed to the sun. Okay, so the next step is going to be the hand, so I'll just add the hand layer and click on the smart object to open the new window. I had already cropped out the screen and the guy holding the hand, so I'll just place the new content. Good, so just rotate and scale to align it to the phone. You can drag it below the previous layer, then increase the size to fill the empty spaces. Good. So I'll create a new layer mask on the screen content, then ensure the brush is hard, black is the foreground color, flow at 100, then brush outside the phone to get rid of any content that projects outside the phone. Okay, so I'll just create a new empty layer. With the weight of the foreground color, I'll just brush over the top part, then place the logo. Scale and rotate to align to the phone. Also make sure no content goes outside the phone. Then I'll press P on the keyboard to pick the pen tool, then I'll just draw a shape to create a screen effect on the phone. So draw a diagonal shape across the screen, then so basically this is going to occupy the half of the screen, so just draw around the phone. then fill with white. I'll change the blending mode to screen, then reduce the opacity. So click S, Control S to save, then go back to the original project. As you can see, it's updated. So after this, we'll just go ahead with the same steps we've been doing on all the previous layers. So I'll Alt hold, then drag the sky layer, copy of the sky layer, then clip it to the phone. 20 to 30 opacity works. Okay, so I'll click on the font layer, then add a curves adjustment layer. I'll create an S curve, so I'll drop the shadows, then increase the highlights. I'll also click at the center to add midtones, then drop it slightly. I'll add another adjustment layer, hue saturation, then increase the saturation. Play around with the hue. Always remember to add a clipping mask on the layers so the effects only affect the selected layer. So I'll go ahead and do the dodge and burn. I'll just click on the midtones and drag all the way up. Control I on the layer mask, then ensure white is the foreground color. Then brush over the areas exposed to the sun. Ensure the flow is around 1 to 3%. I'll add one more curves adjustment layer, but this time we'll drop the midtones all the way down. Then Control I, ensure white is the foreground color, then brush over the dark areas. We'll go ahead and add the guy's face, but I think we forgot to add the shadow. Since the guy is sitting on the building, there must be some shadows on the building. So the sun is on the left side, so it will be projected slightly to the right side of the guy, especially the leg area. So we'll trace the building, click on the topmost layer and add a new empty layer. Ensure brush tool is selected, flow at 100%, foreground color should be black. Then manipulate the shadows. Also ensure the new layer is clipped onto the building. Okay, so brush over the building. Then add a new layer mask on the building, on the layer. Black as the foreground color. Then erase along the slopes of the building, so something like this. I think that will do. So we'll just change the blending mode from normal to multiply, then reduce the opacity. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and add the face layer, which is already cropped out, and repeat the previous step. So I'll alt click on any sky copy layer, then drag on top of the guy's face and clip it to the face. I'll play around with the opacity, so maybe around, I think, 4%. Yeah. Then click on the face layer, add a curves adjustment. We'll create an S curve, so drop the shadow slightly, add highlights. Okay. So I'll go ahead and dodge and burn. So we'll create a curves adjustment layer, then pull the midtones up. Control I on the layer mask to invert, then ensure the brush is soft, flow at around 3. I'll go with 1. White is the foreground color. Then brush over the areas exposed to the sun. So I'll just brush over the forehead area. The cheek. The eyelids as well. Okay, so this is the before, this is the after. We'll repeat the steps, add the curves, but this time we'll drop the midtones. Control I, then brush over the areas, the dark areas. I think this looks good, so we'll just go ahead and add a new hue and saturation layer. So we'll add a new hue saturation layer. And increase the saturation. So all we are doing is matching the face to the hands and also the legs. So we'll play around with the hue. Around the reworks. Okay, so I'll create a new layer, pick the orange yellow shade, then ensure flow is at 100%, soft brush, then brush over the left side of the face, just outside, then change the blending mode to soft light. Okay, I think this is too intense, so I'll just reduce the opacity. Yeah, okay. 1 second, last layer. So create a new empty layer. Pick the yellow orange shade you used. Brush tool, soft. Ensure the flow is at 100%. Increase the brush size around this area, the left area. Click once. Then change the blending mode from normal to color dodge. Okay. This looks good. So ensure the topmost layer is selected, then hold Ctrl Shift Alt E to take a snapshot of all the layers. I'll right click, then change it to Smart Objects. So any effects I apply on this layer will affect everything on the artboard. So this will give the final composition a more uniform look. So we'll go to filter, select camera raw filter. Okay, so I'll just add temperature around 5. Yeah, I'll increase the contrast to around 3. I'll go all the way to textures, then increase clarity, increase dehaze. That will do. Saturation, good. Then I'll go ahead to detail. Noise reduction around 2, then sharpening around 1 or 2. I'll go with 1. Then click OK. So this is the before, this is the after. Finally, guys, so we are done with the project. I hope you've had fun. For those who've been designing it with me, hope you've learned something new. For beginners, This might look like a crazy process, but the more videos you watch, the more techniques you equip yourself with, you'll get the hang of it, and it will get so easy and you'll have so much fun with Photoshop. Yeah, so on the right we have the image that actually went up. On the left, it's the image we've just worked on. Not much of a difference, but don't worry, I'll keep uploading, I'll keep you posted, so stay tuned. I'll explain the techniques in detail in the upcoming videos, so subscribe, share with your designer friends, and keep making those badass creatives, guys. Peace.